Here on Fridays, he comes and goes on a rainbow. How about it for the great Michael Snyder, everybody, the culture blaster?
Greetings and salutations, MTS crew. And yeah, I'm so happy about the increasing audience. The subscribers are there in fine fettle. We have regular visitors Monday through Friday, and I love when you tune in Friday and stick with us through the final moments of the Mark Thompson show every week, because that's where I am pushed. I'm shunted to the very, very end of the very last show of the very final day of the week. Oh my God. And you stick with us, and I love you all.
Well, I have to say, Michael, that may be your interpretation of things. I'd suggest that the big finish, the finale, you're kind of the headliner. You're sort of it's what Donald Trump was to the RNC. He was the final speaker. You are the final speaker on our show.
I'm the cherry on the top. You know, I want to say something about the speech last night. After watching that, I will tell you that if you are not riding with Biden, you're going to be hiding after November. You're going to have to find a little cubbyhole, because those people are scary. And I don't know if Joe's going to be the nominee, and if he is, I'm voting for. You said yourself you'd vote for Biden if he was on a gurney. So I'm proposing Gurney 2024. I think that's going to be my bumper sticker until the beginning of November. Speaking of old folks, sadly, there have been too many celebrity passings to keep up over the past week or so. I mean, we had Shelley Duvall, Dr. Ruth Westheimer, Shannon Doherty, Bob Newhart. The word came down yesterday. A terrific comedian. And weirdly enough, the only one of these folks that Mr. Showbiz, that's me, has ever been in contact with was Richard Simmons. And it was really startling, because he's so flamboyant and kind of silly and fun and whatever. And the ex and I were getting on a plane after Carnival season in New Orleans to head back to the West Coast. And he was right in front of us in the queue getting onto the airplane. And he sat down in first class, and somebody's baggage spilled all over the place, about 5 or 6 people in front of us. And we were stopped right next to Richard Simmons' first class seat
that's why.
for about 5 minutes. And he's wearing Mardi Gras beads, and we're wearing Mardi Gras beads. And I said to him, you look like you had a good time this past week. And it just set him off. He told us about being like a grand marshal riding on a parade float. And I asked him, because my ex and I are big fans of New Orleans cooking, what were his favorite restaurants? Did he have anything to recommend? He was so genuine and kind and funny and breezy. And of course, as we're about to move forward and everything is gathered up by the passenger who spilled his suitcase, he says, lovely talking to you, but I just got to say, what's a beautiful woman like you doing with a schlemiel like this guy?
Oh, that's great.
But I want one more quick note. Mid-flight, we're in our seats. He actually came back to the seats where we were sitting, to our row, and said, I had a few other recommendations. And he said, and I was just kidding. You're a lovely couple.
Oh, that's sweet. He smoothed it over.
I just thought it was delightful.
Oh, that's really great. I feel like I might have met him on Good Day LA or something, but I don't really have any recollections of Dr. Ruth. I had a lot of interactions with on Good Day LA and on different shows I did, but not Richard Simmons. That's a great story, though.
Yeah, he was a lovely man.
Was he wearing the short shorts?
Yes, he was. And he was wearing Mardi Gras beads. And he was born and raised in New Orleans. And so I thought, what better person to ask about, sights and flavors than a guy
because you're a movie guy also, they have, I think, a documentary in the works about him. They know it was in the works. I don't know if it's still in the works or not.
Well, he was very kind and very genial, and he was just like you imagine he should be.
Genial's a ding word.
In my current piece for the Voice of San Francisco, Mark, I cover the current creative fallout from mergers and acquisitions, specifically the completed and misbegotten merger between Warner Brothers and Discovery, and the in-progress acquisition of Paramount Global by Skydance Media, and how both situations are less than friendly to significant content and IP that is identified with both companies that are being acquired or involved in the merger. It's all bottom line driven, which brings me to this week's opening review, a blockbuster to be sure, and one that I frankly enjoyed. So what's that old saying? Oh yeah, everybody talks about the weather, but nobody does anything about it. Well, in the 1996 hit movie Twister, Helen Hunt's scientist character decides she's going to do something about the weather. She's trying to understand tornadoes using a machine that she and her estranged husband, played by Bill Paxton, developed together. And another brainiac tries to get his own version of the device going. So the couple are forced to start chasing storms together to beat their rival. So thrills ensue. Of course, it was a really wonderful summer movie that just brought people in. It was just terribly exciting, and at that point the special effects were starting to get good enough where you could do twister chasers. It was kind of cool. Anyway, they finally got around to doing a sort of remake of Twister because Hollywood believes that everything old is new again, or will be if the box office is impressive enough the first time around.
Sure, it was a hit, so let's make another one type thing.
So, yeah, Twisters. There is a plural, so that means more tornadoes, more fun. This time out, the protagonist is a young woman, again. The canny Oklahoma gal, Kate Cooper, played by British actress Daisy Edgar Jones. I'm so down home. No, she's actually quite believable as this, American gal. And with her collegiate buddies at the beginning of the film, she's chasing tornadoes because she has come up with a chemical seeding process that she believes will actually stop tornadoes, thus saving lives and property. And
Let me guess. Instead, it actually creates tornadoes.
No, but
okay.
something does go wrong.
Okay.
And she quits her quest, and I guess she joins the National Weather Service as a storm monitor. I guess that's punishment, and she's got to sit at a computer console in New York. But you would know more about meteorology than any of us here, having
so they parked her in front of one of those computers to keep an eye on. She sees the brewing nastiness that is coming. Is that it, Michael?
Right, but she's not thrown in the middle of it because of the tragedy she's already endured.
Yeah.
So an old friend from her old tornado chasing group gets back in touch and pulls her back into tornado chasing with the promise of resuming her experiments and, again, saving lives and property. So it's back to Oklahoma, where she and her new colleagues, along with her old buddy, run into a pack of wild, publicity-hungry, storm-chasing internet superstars.
That's real.
Yeah,
I mean,
and they
that's
keep it
out there, right?
They keep it contemporary, and these people are led by the swaggering Tyler Owens, and happily, he is played by rising and charismatic actor Glenn Powell.
Yeah.
So you just woo.
Yeah,
So
Glenn Powell's
good in
a hottie.
Hitman, and he still has that charm. And it's not a meet cute; it's kind of a meet nasty. But they're going to get together, but it doesn't matter. And there's all kinds of peril, and tornadoes are coming here and there, and they're all in the middle of the tornado window, the tornado zone.
Sure,
and
Tornado Alley.
Tornado Alley, call it what you will. Anyway, no, that's actually the proper name.
Yeah,
I think.
that's okay.
Thank you. Anyway, Mark, of course, again, knows weather. So they eventually start chasing tornadoes together. You know what? I saw this on IMAX, and I just got I got a big kick out of it. And I know it's a little pricier, but if you are still going to the movies, and I know people are staying home and watching on their home entertainment units, but this is the sort of movie that should be seen on the big screen. It had me in a spin, I got to tell you, and
does she throw sharks at the tornado is what Brian wants to know.
There is no Sharknado, but Lee Isaac Chung keeps the plates spinning, and again, the effects are better now than they ever were, and there's not much in the way of plot. You kind of know she's going to rediscover her adventurous side and be out there amidst the twisters, but it doesn't matter because it's fun. And again, so charismatic is Glenn Powell, and Daisy Edgar Jones has charm.
So you liked it?
I did like it, and this is not a great film, but it is a terrific entertainment for the middle of summer, which we are right in at the moment, and it is the absolute definition of a popcorn muncher. Twisters is in theaters, and for what it is, I recommend it.
All right. Very good. What else do you have?
Okay, so this week's horror movie, I mean, it seems like there's a notable one.
Well, the one that you
week.
had, that long legs, that is a hit.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
I thought of you when I was reading an article the other day, so that it really is doing well.
We talked a little bit earlier about corporations buying into familiar stuff, franchises, and sometimes misusing IP. And it's so wonderful when someone comes up with a twist or something. Pardon the use of the word twist after all that Twister stuff. Something new and different on the horror front instead of revisiting Jason and Freddy and
Some
the rest of
sequel,
those
yeah.
lunatics. So this is actually another good horror movie if you like this sort of thing, and I do. And it comes to us from Ireland, and it's a banger with some mash, so to speak. And rather than lean on familiar Irish folklore, which they might do, as opposed to going to the Freddy Jason route, there are no leprechauns, there are no banshees or pukas. Instead, it comes up with its own freaky mythology involving a statue, some witchy spells, and some mentally deranged menaces, because, the hand of man is involved here as well. So it's called Oddity, and it concerns twin sisters, both played by Carolyn Bracken, very well played by Carolyn Bracken, and the career path that the single sister took as opposed to getting married and becoming a literal homemaker as the married one did. So Danny is the married one and the homemaker, and I say that because she's slain at the country house that she and her psychiatric hospital-running husband, Ted, are renovating.
Oh, my God.
So, so the guy's a psychiatrist. Anyway, the other sister is Darcy. There's Danny, and there's Darcy. And she, Darcy's, kind of upset that her sister's dead. And on the year anniversary of her death, Darcy, who is an able-bodied blind person and runs a curio shop that she inherited from the twins' mother, she shows up at the house. She, is kind of curious about what happened to her sister because she's not satisfied with what the police reports have said. And she shows up, and it turns out that Ted, who was Danny's husband, has moved on with a colleague, an apparently nice woman named Yana. And Darcy has decided to investigate Danny's death, and it's been pinned on one of Ted's patients. So Darcy shows up at the country house in the woods to visit Ted and Yana, and a gift from the curio shop is also delivered to the house, and that's where the fun begins. Screenwriter-director Damian McCarthy has done a terrific job of creating what may or may not start a new franchise. I don't know. His previous movie, Caveat, also concerned scary stuff at a remote location, and it was pretty good of kind, but Oddity is even better. Again, kudos to the performance by Carolyn Bracken. And, I like something new and different in any genre. And so I say that Oddity is very solid on the horror front.
Well, what does Oddity refer to, Michael Snyder? There's a lot going on. Twin sisters, there's a psychiatric place they're redoing, the murder or attempted murder. What is it?
That is the beauty of the title. And in fact, she runs a curio shop. And what do we find in curio shops?
Odd items.
Odd items. And I think the curio shop is called, I guess it's their last name, whatever their last name is, Odello. Odello's Oddities.
So you like this
shop.
Oddity?
I did.
Right.
Again, it's not your cup of tea, but there is not a lot of blood.
Right.
And so from that standpoint...
It's a psychological kind of thing?
It is.
All right.
And I thought it was kind of cool. So we're going to do a little catch-up because there's not more beyond... Twisters and Oddity in terms of new movies this week. And I want to talk about a film I finally had a chance to see on Netflix called The Imaginary. And, I love the animation. I work in animation part of the time. And The Imaginary is a very inventive, whimsical, and splendid to look at animated all-ages feature film from director Yoshiyuki Momose. Now, this guy is a Japanese filmmaker who previously worked with master animator Hayao Miyazaki at Studio Ghibli. And Miyazaki is the brilliant animator who created classics like Spirited Away, Oscar winner, Princess Mononoke, My Neighbor Totoro, and the recent Oscar winner, The Boy and the Heron. So apparently Momose was paying attention because The Imaginary has much of the charm and creativity and visual beauty of a Studio Ghibli movie. So it's based on a UK book and set in what appears to be a contemporary English town. The Imaginary is a much, much better narrative about the power of imagination, imaginary friends, losing them, and then holding on to the precious magic of make-believe than the recent live-action movie If, because that's what If wanted to be. The Imaginary does it far better. And as in If, we meet a secret community of discarded imaginary friends at one point. There's a main kid, Amanda, again, a girl, the daughter of a single parent, as in If. The difference is it's a single mother who runs a failing bookstore, not a single dad in failing health. But the story told in the imaginary focuses on one specific relationship, that relationship between Amanda and her imaginary friend Rudger, who shares her adventures of the mind, but who fears that Amanda is going to grow up and forget about him. So the villain here is a creepy guy who is quite aware that the imaginary friends exist despite being ostensibly imaginary, and that they have power. He still has his own imaginary companion, a little darker than, say, Rudger, and he uses that relationship to consume the power of other imaginaries to attain a sort of immortality. So he's the villain. Rudger's attempt to escape this guy, who is not as fully fleshed out as I would have liked, but he is scary. That brings Rudger to a limbo populated by other imaginaries. The whole point is reconnecting with Amanda, and getting there again is a visual treat. I usually recommend seeing a Japanese movie, even the animated ones, with the original voice actors and English subtitles. But since this is actually set in England and has a great English language voice cast, including Haley Atwell, Jeremy Swift, Kai Penn, and LeVar Burton, I say watch the English dub on Netflix.
Ah, look at you.
It was really charming and beautifully done.
Wow. All right.
A little family fun.
That's called the imaginary.
Yeah, now here's something that's not for families. I don't think this is just for grown-ups. It's called Last Summer, or Le Dernier Été, en français.
Is this a French film?
Oui, it's a French film. It's been around for a couple weeks. And again, we're doing a little catch-up.
Subtitles. Who's got time? Really? I want to eat. I want to get high. I don't have to read.
Wait, you don't have to have subtitles on the imaginary, despite it being a Japanese film. Again,
go ahead.
The dub is good. This is still a very good psychological study by the fearless French director and screenwriter Catherine Breillat. She's the...
How do you say fearless in French?
Sans peur.
Sans peur.
Without
wow,
fear.
Look at you. He really speaks it. Go ahead.
Un peu, yeah. Anyway, so Catherine Breillat made the films Fat Girl and The Last Mistress. She again, she doesn't care about boundaries. And in this case, this movie is all about a woman who is kind of in child protective services, and it's sort of that kind of thing. She tries to help children that have been abused by their parents, and that's her job. And she's married to a well-to-do businessman type, so she has a comfortable life. They have two adopted Asian French daughters, kids, like little kids, adorable as all get out. And the husband has a teenage son, a bulky one from his first marriage, and is trying to reconnect with the guy. So they all gather together as a family of five, essentially. And suddenly there's and by the way, the teenage boy's, he's kind of a pretty boy, and he's got a cute girlfriend, but he's obviously kind of a bad seed. He's just a juvenile delinquent type. And for some reason, our lead actor here, or lead actress, and the attorney who helps these kids, in perilous circumstances, is attracted to her stepson, and vice versa, and it gets really pretty hot and bothered. In fact, as I'm watching this, I'm thinking, oh, those Randy French. So this is, again, not for everyone. And it's got
There's nudity. Is that what you're telling me, Michael?
There's some butt shots. Yes,
okay,
I think
that's
so.
Just some tasteful nudity is what you're saying?
There are some sex scenes. And so if this is upsetting to you.
Albert likes it. I usually walk out of the room during the sex scenes.
And, the relationship between Pierre, the husband, and Anne, the wife, and this kid, Theo, is volatile. And I thought this was beautifully done. The idea of an older woman, albeit one that's a good-looking woman, played by Léa Drucker, who did voice work in the recent animated French film Mars Express, which I loved. It's plausible because, it's plausible. It's creepy, but it's plausible. And
she ends up with the dad or something?
No.
What's the creepy part?
The creepy part is that she's, getting involved with her stepson, and it's
I see.
a forbidden.
Forbidden love. How do you say that?
I'd rather not.
L'amour forbidden.
No, that's not it.
Okay.
But let's just point out one more quick note. Music provided by Kim Gordon of Sonic Youth, believe it or not. And it just ends up making the hotness even hotter in Last Summer. Again, this is not going to be for everybody because it is... it's the sort of relationship that people shy.
Taboo is what it is.
It's totally taboo.
And G. Gaia points out sex scenes are soon going to be outlawed by MAGA, so you may want to go check this out while you still can. Is Michael fluent in French? Asks John Watson. The answer is oui.
Oui, c'est vrai.
Oui, bien sûr, I would say, but you can say c'est vrai, which means it's true.
Yeah.
Bien sûr means of course.
Honestly, dude, I thought it was a beautiful personality drama. I thought it was very well done. And again, not for everybody. Let's do a quick pivot if we can, because I want to mention a TV program that I've been following, and it's in my wheelhouse.
Well, before you started, Kim has jumped on, and I'm sure she has a question or
How many
breaking,
languages each do you guys speak? Because I didn't know you spoke French, Mark Thompson. You speak Spanish and French, and what else?
He speaks very fluent Spanish.
I speak Spanish, and I speak some French. My mother was a French teacher, so
Right.
But I was a l'enfant terrible. What does that mean?
A bad kid.
A bad kid. And I did not want to learn it because my mom was a teacher. I don't want to learn French, Mom.
Enfant terrible. It's a
But
trope.
Michael really speaks French.
I've spent a lot of...
Yeah, he spends time there in Paris. Well, look, he wears the beret. He's Parisian. He's a big
Pas exactement.
So English and French for you, Michael, or is there more?
English and French, and I do speak inner city angry.
Oh, yeah.
John says he knows all the French dirty words, which is you must know those.
That's a
dirty
bunch
words.
of merde. Anyway, that's okay. Fine, Kim.
That's a bunch of merde. Very
Kim,
good.
of these movies, I would recommend for you Twisters and The Imaginary. I know you'd be a little uneasy about the stepmother, stepson
Yeah, the last
thing.
summer is not for Kim.
Well,
but you were going to say one
you
more
guys
thing.
really slammed down
And they're
my
hungry.
sexuality.
No,
Just
I'm not
saying.
doing that.
No, because you have a family. We're just talking about it's not a it's
Don't
not
watch
family.
the sex movies with the kids? Yeah.
Yeah, that's all. No, I think actually, if I must tell you, I never said this before, but I think Kim is, I think she's cranked up on the SEX.
If it was Glenn Powell having sex with Daisy Edgar Jones, I say, Kim, get in line, buy a ticket. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about last summer.
Iron rod.
Yeah.
Kim, how are you?
Taboo. Anyway, before we get too deep in the weeds here, I do want to talk about this TV program. Do you mind?
Please.
Okay. It's the 4th season and final season of Snowpiercer, which is premiering Sunday. Series 4 is premiering Sunday on AMC and AMC Plus, and it's based on expanding upon the very cool Snowpiercer. Cool. Anyway, Bong Joon-ho sci-fi movie. All about a post-apocalyptic world that's frozen over. And it's essentially after Earth has experienced a kind of nuclear winter, and the only means of survival is on a massive, perpetually moving train that could only accommodate a limited number of people who find themselves divided by class. And the class of their tickets. And this leads to all sorts of conflict beyond the sub-freezing peril of the landscape, constantly zipping by as they're on the train. And will the train continue to run? Are they the only people left on Earth? Who survives? Anyway,
is there a bar card on the train?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And there's a whole party car on the train.
Okay.
But it's a massive train. It's like 800 plus train cars long. But this science fiction movie was cool. But the series, which stars East Bay's own Daveed Diggs, by the way, who's people know he's from Hamilton. He was one of the stars of Hamilton. He's a terrific actor from Oakland, I think. Jennifer Connelly, and this season Clark Gregg, who people love from the Marvel movies and TV shows. And again, it's some exciting stuff, if you ask me. I thought that it was worth revisiting for a 4th season, and they're going to do it, and I think wrap up the story.
Snowpiercer is what that's called.
Yes.
I will tell you that I just picked up with Courtney a very well-reviewed by you TV series called The Gentleman.
Yes.
You had told us about it on this show, It's Guy Ritchie.
Yes.
And it's terrific, and it's our new guilty pleasure.
You could do worse, buddy.
Last summer was so you heard about Snowpiercer, the final season. Michael's very much on board. The Imaginary, the animated film, exploring the relationship between Amanda and her imaginary friend. Maybe not so imaginary, he says, despite the fact this is a Japanese film. In a break from what is typical Snyder tradition, the Culture Blaster usually likes it in the native language with subtitles. But in this case, he says the English dub of The Imaginary is the way to go.
And it's available on Netflix, which is a boon to many.
Oddity is the twin sisters film. It's played by Carol and Bracken, both those sisters. They have the oddities abound. To be honest, I was overwhelmed by the oddity. Unclear as to what exactly the oddity was. It all seemed odd. There's somebody missing.
One is slain.
It's pinned on an old student of the.
No. One is slain. The other one wants to find out the truth. It's said that the one that was slain was killed by one of the husband's
students.
No, one of the husband's patients at the psychiatric hospital.
Okay, a psychiatric hospital. Yeah. Let me ask you, where is that playing, in theaters or is it?
It's in theaters.
It's in theaters.
And,
but we started with Glenn Powell, that hunk of Glenn Powell. Oh, he is something else.
Girl, you just woo.
Yeah, girl, do it. Twisters is the sequel to Twister.
No, it's just sort of the same idea.
I see. Okay, it's not really the sequel, but it's the same idea. He says.
Unless we think of science as a long narrative, and back in the day in Twister, they had certain scientific abilities.
The science is ridiculous.
This is a continuation
maybe the science doesn't work.
tornado research. It's
Well, you know who the consultant was on this Twisters, don't you?
Dr. Emil Schaffhausen.
Dr. Emil Schaffhausen III.
I couldn't be more delighted.
Twisters is a big hit already, and the Culture Blasters review hadn't even come out yet. And he says, check it out in IMAX if you really want a treat.
It's fun.
Yeah.
There's very little plot per se, but it's so much fun going on the ride.
Michael, I've enjoyed our time together. I look forward to next week. Anything else you want to leave us with?
No.
I have 10 more seconds.
Next week we have Deadpool and Wolverine, which is it's the 5,000-pound superpowered gorilla in the room.
Yeah, loving that. Check out the Culture Blaster, voice of San Francisco. You can find him at thevoicesf.org, thevoicesf.org. He's also Mike the Knife 123 on Instagram. He goes to all these art openings, all that cool stuff that Michael does. And then on X and the other stuff, he's at Culture Blaster.
I just want to remind people, and the celebrity deaths reminded me, stop and smell the Coachella Valley coffee. People.
Very well done, Michael Snyder. Very well done. He comes and goes on a rainbow. Bye-bye, Michael.
Go Giants!
Yeah. Right. Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.